What time is it, guys?
Time to duel!
It's time to duel!
All right, well, we're going to do this in unison, okay? So I need everyone on their feet first. Everyone on your feet.
Okay.
We're about to start the next Yu-Gi-Oh panel. So when I say it's time to, I need to hear you guys say duel, okay? It's time to duel! It's not loud enough, man. We gotta get some more energy in here. Bring all your friends, your cousins, your dogs, your aunts, uncles to do this. It's time to duel! Way better, guys. Let's give a round of applause to Eric Stuart and Dan Green. Man, you guys look great. Look at these guys.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hi, what's going on, guys?
What's going on?
There we go. Have you guys had a good weekend?
Yes!
How awesome is Collecticon for throwing this party, right?
Yeah.
How you guys doing today?
Good.
Well, yeah.
Sign some crazy stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Not
yeah.
crazy, but you know, just the normal crazy.
What's like the normal crazy thing you signed this weekend?
Well, I don't know. I get a lot of Squirtles and I get a lot of Kaibas and Blue Eyes White Dragons. But someone came up to me with this amazing, like, full sculpture of Team Rocket and all of their Pokemon. I don't know what vendor made that thing, but it was amazing. I don't know if that person is still here, but like, that was such a cool thing. And I signed it on the big Team Rocket R. It was really cool, but that was really neat. It was like this big. It's like a birthday cake.
What about yourself, Dan? What's like the coolest thing you signed this weekend?
I've been signing a lot of Squirtle, a lot of Kaiba. Don't tell Eric, but I need the money. So, but then one of my favorite things was there was this young woman who showed me her sketchbook. And it was this pencil drawing of the Dark Magician. And she told me that that illustration was how she and the man next to her got married. That's how they struck up a conversation. She was too intimidated to say hi to him. But then he noticed the Dark Magician, and he dropped some, I forget what line it was, but it was, you know, it was some Yu-Gi-Oh specific nomenclature in universe, only a geek would get it, signal, which opened things up so they could have a conversation, and they got married. And I was honored to add my signature to that, yeah.
And we are available to officiate any weddings you might have. Why not get married with Yugi and Kaiba?
Do it at Collecticon. Is that the catchphrase now? Why not get married with Yugi and Kaiba?
It's time to get married.
You're
say
almost,
I do.
You're,
It's time to say I do.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
All right, well, 2024 is coming to an end. You know, last Collecticon, absolutely crazy. I want to know, what was your guys' biggest lesson you learned this year? Life lesson.
From Collecticon?
Just in general, you know, what's the
To
where's
keep
the application?
you on that side of the couch when we're doing the interviews. No, seriously.
Just
no,
wait till next year.
I'm going to use Collecticon as the life lesson. Doing conventions is a bonus to the careers that we have chosen, right? Being a voice actor, you know, a lot of times we're just in the booth and we work with maybe an engineer or a director or sometimes even just by ourselves. And we don't get the interaction with the people that are enjoying or not enjoying the shows. So going to these events and getting to meet you guys, hearing the stories of, you know, you grew up watching the show or what it meant to you, or a story like what Dan just said, you know, meeting your partner, that to me makes it much more human. And there are times when we get sort of frustrated with our careers and we get frustrated with the day-to-day of it. But this is like a refreshing moment of, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than us. It's the community. I was a quirky, geeky kid in high school as well. I mean, I played a little sports, but I was also like playing with Lego and video games and D&D and stuff like that. And I just feel like this is a great representation of diversity, and those of us that were sort of on the fringe here, that's the norm. And I think that we can behave the way that you guys behave to each other in the real world and teach people sort of a lesson on how we can be kind and accepting. So that's my biggest lesson, especially doing all of these events. So thank you for that, from you to you guys.
Oh, thank you. That's great.
Yeah, nicely done. For me, over the past year, I think one of my biggest lessons that has been informed by making appearances at Collecticon and meeting you wonderful people is the lesson of devoting yourself to what you know you are truly passionate about. And I come to this, learning this lesson again. I felt like I should have learned it already. But for the last 11 months or so, I've been fortunate enough to get a lot of work, voiceover work, but it wasn't what I was truly passionate about, and it kept me away from doing things like our podcast, The Heart of the Cards, and other things like Crossing the Gods, which you mentioned a number of times. So I'm finally out of that commitment to that kind of work. And again, it's work that I feel very fortunate to have. I'm lucky to be a part of the people they consider for that kind of work. So I'm grateful for that, but it's not what I am in love with. Just today I met a young woman who's a dancer. And also today I met a young man who's putting together his own Pokemon shop in the heart of Manhattan City, right there in Times Square. And they both have the same energy. They have the energy of somebody who is connected to what they wanted to do with the rest of their life. And that matters, because we only got one trip around this world, you know? So none of us has done anything to earn the time we're given, but you're the only one who can spend it. So I'm reminded of that lesson, and I take it to heart.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
All right, that's great.
I'm also running for office, if you wanted to vote. That felt like such a stump speech. I don't know why I said that.
Honestly, that's like really profound, but I do want to talk to you guys about like your friendships as a whole. Like what's been awesome to see.
I've heard of friendships. Now, how does that?
Well, I mean, yeah, I have friendships as a whole. I mean, what do you? Yeah, go ahead.
I've noticed that, like, you know, backstage or whenever I see you guys together, it's kind of cool because, like, in the show, like, the two characters that you guys play in Yu-Gi-Oh! Are kind of like who you guys are in real life in a way, where it's like you guys, you know, are rivals essentially in the show, but then you guys become really, really good friends. You guys sharpen each other like iron sharpens iron. And so, like, you know, I feel like that's what your friendships are. You guys are great friends, and you guys kind of keep each other, you know, sharp, you know?
Yeah, it's very interesting because when we first met, we had met in passing working on some shows way back in the day, but we really started to develop our friendship. I was directing Yu-Gi-Oh! And of course Dan being the star of the show, we got to work with each other many, many hours each week. And, you know, it's very interesting when you are friends with other creative people. There is a difference between ego and confidence. Ego can get in the way of people that do the same thing for a living. And sometimes you have these walls up and you feel like you're competing against them all the time. But those that are sort of confident in the things that they do well, it has nothing to do with saying you do something better than someone else, right? You just say, I'm being a really good Eric Stuart today, and tomorrow I'm going to try to be a better Eric Stuart. I don't care what everybody else is doing, right? It's not about that. And when Dan and I first met, it was very clear that there was never any sort of, even though you say rivals, there was never any of that. And even if we auditioned for the same parts, there was never any of that because I think we were very comfortable in our own skin. And when people are like that and also creative, you let down your walls and you share and you're open with each other. And our personalities, I mean, my goodness, if you spent an evening with us having dinner and you listen to the way that we talk with each other, my wife calls it, of course, the bromance. But I'm very, very proud of the fact that I have friendships with men in my life that I'm very open with, that I discuss things that maybe I wouldn't discuss with anyone else because I trust them. And I think that's at the core, is that there's a mutual respect that we have for each other, for our skills and all of that, but we lean on each other for a lot of stuff. And I'd rather have 5 amazing friends than no 25 people, you know? So that's really what's at the core of it, for me.
For sure, yeah. And I concur with exactly everything that Eric is saying. And when we first started getting to know each other and he was directing me in Yu-Gi-Oh!, he never let the question of why I wasn't more talented come out of his mouth. He never asked it outright. He did say next time with more talent, but that was different. That was different. No, that's just kidding. That's brutal. Good fun though. I probably run so many decisions by Eric because not only is he a gifted musician, singer-songwriter, actor, and director, but he knows how to approach so many other problem-solving situations in such a way that I always want the benefit of his judgment when I have a question that that really matters. And Eric's just a little bit older than I am, so it's kind of easy for me to think of him as an older brother. No, get out of here, you. So that's great, but also this, the friendships that we are able to, like, I'm great friends with Erica Schroeder and so many of the people that were part of the 4 Kids crew, that we were lucky enough to be in. Some of those relationships are some of the best relationships, best friendships that I've ever had and continue to have. So, I mean, it's just a real blessing.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like, there was no Yugi without Kaiba and vice versa, but they didn't really know that until, it had been a lot past their rivalry, past their history, and I think that's a very similar thing with you guys as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, art imitates life a little bit. I mean, I definitely think that, yes, 2 other actors could have played those 2 characters and they would have done a fantastic job, right? But it would have been a different job, right? I do think that there are definitely some Eric and Dan in those performances.
That's the way it works.
Yeah, we definitely bring some real life to that, and I think that's another reason why it does work.
I really like the bromance you guys got going on. Like you guys play off of each other so well. I mean, even down to like the interviews that I see you guys do. Is there? I mean, I'm sure you guys get asked this a lot, and I mean, I'm sure it changes every day for you guys. What was a great, memorable experience for you guys that you guys experienced while shooting either Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! That was like, wow, this is kind of crazy?
One of my favorite experiences was when I got to meet Sensei Takahashi with Eric back in 2015, I think it was, or 16?
Yeah, probably.
In Florida. And it wasn't a convention, it was a competition. And I think it was one of the first times, not the absolute first time, but those live duels. Has anybody seen one of those live duels? Well, yeah, so we did that. And anyway, and Takahashi was there, who you had met once before?
Once before, yes.
Yeah. And I have such incredible admiration for comic book artists and writers. That's one of my passions in my life. And that Takahashi made something that is so compelling to us to this day and to so many people is truly mind-boggling. And I just feel so fortunate to be a part of it. But that was something that I was delighted that we shared.
Yeah, that was a great moment. I mean, when do you get a chance to meet the creator of the character, especially a character that it changed my life, and also you feel that pressure. It's like, yeah, we're doing a live stream and everyone's watching it and there's a live audience and all of that, but knowing that person, that audience of one, is in that audience watching you perform a character that he created, that was pretty cool. But I mean, I have to say that another great memory for me is seeing like Dark Side of Dimensions or the Pokemon movie or any of these films in theaters with an audience of fans, because I'm a fan myself, right? And so you watch this stuff in the studio and you think, oh, that's kind of funny, or that's a emotional moment, it seems to be working, but then you experience it with people around you where they all laugh or they all cheer, and it's like, my goodness, this is just so cool. I'd never thought, if you asked 10-year-old Eric if he would be sitting in a theater watching the screening of one of the biggest anime movies of all time, that I'm on the big screen moving my, talking while something's moving its mouth. I mean, that's just like, pinch me. That's just, I am very humbled by that experience. It is a little surreal.
Oh, wait, that reminds me of something. Can I share another thing?
Absolutely.
So there was another, way back when, in Manhattan, in Times Square, there was a store called Toys R Us, and it was amazing because it would have a Ferris wheel, and they had a dinosaur that moved, and a Hulk made out of Legos that was life-size. I mean, it was fantastic. And they had this sculpture of Superman holding up a truck, which is a reference from the first, the cover page of the first Superman thing. And they, that's from Action Comics #1. And they had Spider-Man, doing some sort of dynamic pose, and for a while, they had Yami Yugi with his dual disc. I was like, yes!
I made it to Toys R Us. Awesome.
Did he have any comments on your guys' performance as the character?
Takahashi, yeah. So it was very, very flattering. you know, one of the things that really meant a lot to me was after he watched the performance, the live duel, he said to me that I was his favorite Kaiba because of the dynamic I brought to the performance.
Whoa.
Which was really kind of
That's
cool.
awesome.
Because I'm not, of course, I mean, the Japanese actor is the original, right? But it's also like the cultures have different approaches to a lot of the way that we do cinema. So, you know, the way that it's directed is also part of it, right? When we're doing the live duels, we don't have a director. So we are directing ourselves. So it really was more of like my interpretation of what I see. You know, Kaiba could easily just be Johnny One Note and just be yelling at you all the time. But I think some of the snarky sarcasm stuff that the writers wrote for me, but I definitely, let's just say, it came very naturally for me as a person to know how to say those lines. So that was very cool. And he was also a fan. The short version of the story is when we got to meet him physically, and we were brought into his room to meet him. The whole staff was all very, you know, proper, and everyone would stand up when he stood up and whatever.
There's a certain formality.
But when we saw him, he was like in blue jeans and a white button-down shirt, and just looked like a guy that, I mean, we were not that different in age. And after we did the formal greeting, I said through the translator, can we do an anime pose with him? Do you think he'd want to do that? And at first they were a little embarrassed to even ask, but he was like, well, what did they say? And they translated, and he was like, oh yeah. And we took these great photos of you know, if you've come to our table to do autographs or selfies with us, and we're always, you know, we try to act out the characters with you. He was doing that with us. And afterwards we walked out, and Dan's like, of course you asked him to do that. And I'm like, because he's a fan. Like, it's not just the creator, he was a fan of the stuff. So that was really neat to see, right? Right?
Totally.
That's so cool.
And
man.
that was a lot of fun. It was a very warm feeling.
Yes.
And that's when Takahashi told me that I was his 37th favorite Yugi. But
Well, I wasn't going to bring that up.
it's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay.
But thank
I'm
you.
over it. I'm
Yes.
over it.
Amazing. Well,
All right, so
all right, cool.
let's go ahead. If you guys have,
We're running a little behind, but it's not our fault, right? So we don't want you guys to feel the penalty for that. We do want to do some quick Q&As if you guys want to ask us a couple of questions. But
About 10 minutes or so.
But can you keep them short questions so we can give you short answers so that we can
Yeah,
get back to them?
and one question, not like,
Yeah.
what are your 5 favorite, you know?
Yeah.
thumbs up if you got that.
So
do
if
it.
that's
All right,
cool, let's
cool,
do
cool.
it.
Yeah,
Right?
let's
'Cause
do a
that's
couple,
only
yeah.
fair. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
No pressure. Make them good.
Hi, how are y'all?
Hi.
Really quick. So my first animes are Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh. So
Yep.
I spent my whole childhood, 4 kids, Toonami, all that stuff watching it. Okay. Really quick, how do you feel about Pegasus?
Love him.
I love
yeah.
So
Pegasus
much
too.
that I borrowed his hairstyle.
Yeah.
Darren is a very dear friend of ours and a very, very, just a great person. And I loved what he did with that character. A lot of people thought that that was me because it sounded very similar to James from Team Rocket. But I think Darren adds a whole different flavor, especially when he's drinking that grape juice out of his glass.
Hello.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you. Good
He
question.
is a method actor, isn't
Yes,
he?
yes.
Oh man.
Hey, good
Hey.
afternoon. So I have a question for Yugi. So in the show, you gave Joey Time Wizard, and was that just like playing like from the get-go so you could beat him at the end of Duelist Kingdom?
I think it would be a real not good move if I exposed Yugi for the manipulator that he is. So that's all I'm allowed to say on it.
Right, yeah.
Good answer.
Yugi would never do anything so deceptive.
All right, that
He's
was my
pure of
question.
heart.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah, I like your shirt too.
So, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was my first ever anime I ever watched growing up. And I just gotta wonder, how did you guys come up with the voices of Seto Kaiba and Yugi Moto?
Well, for Yugi, it starts with somewhat imitating what is in the original Japanese. I mean, honoring it. I think imitating might not be the best word. But, and I don't know who came up with the idea of Yami sounding deeper, right? And that is clearly something unique to the American dub, which then got mimicked by other countries, right? But, you know, thinking of Takahashi, like, had I been the creator of that character, and they so radically changed the interpretation of it, I don't know how I'd feel about that. But he was very nice to me, right? And I think that the difference between the younger or older, you know, Yami Yugi, invites a different kind of association. It's more like an avuncular or like a father-like relationship, which gives it a different, you receive that differently as the audience. So But yeah, I was just trying to do the best I could. And you will notice if you watch the series from beginning to end, those voices change, but that's just a reflection of me doing what I'm asked to do. So.
And with Kaiba, there was a long search for I was directing that show, and we were doing casting, and they didn't hear what they were looking for, and I finally was like, I think I can do this role. I was, of course, brought on to direct, so I didn't want to double dip at first, but I got what the producer was looking for. Obviously, you hear my real voice, it's not that far away from Kaiba. The secret to what I bring to that character is all the attitude. It had nothing to do with putting on a voice. It had to do with being able to play that sarcasm or play that drama. It's all about that. So that's really what the core of acting is to me. If you only have one voice, you can still do amazing things with that if you're a decent actor, rather than maybe hiding behind impersonations of a million different voices, but there's no acting behind it, right? So that's where I came up with the Kaiba thing, was understanding the personality.
All right.
But good question.
Who here wants to be a voice actor? Anybody? Acting is the most important part.
Yes.
Don't let anybody convince you otherwise.
Yeah. Good question, though. Hey, whoa, we banned that episode.
Wrong. Man.
I got a question for Eric.
Yeah.
So, what was your favorite one-liner that you said to any Yu-Gi-Oh character, or like any favorite roast?
I do like the third-rate duelist with a fourth-rate deck. That's definitely a go-to. But then there's some other ones that I kind of like. I've been leaning on stop saving the world and get a hobby. I like that one. Yeah, what's your favorite?
Fourth-rate deck.
So,
definitely.
you're a third-rate duelist with a fourth-rate deck. All right, you got it. Kaiba, good to see you.
Yes, hi. Okay, what was the idea behind the Kaiba Man card?
I have no idea. I do not know how to play the game, but I could still beat you.
That is totally not true.
He's using all the A-list material today.
Tim, right?
Yeah, Tim.
Good to see you again, Tim.
I met both of y'all both at the tables earlier,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to bring note to another 4Kids show that I just feel like goes under the radar.
Yeah.
Kirby, right back at you.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So I know.
Oh my God, who knew?
Yeah, exactly. It needs more love, right? So I'm like, so I know you did Dan. I know you did the sales
Customer
guy.
service, yeah.
Yeah, the sleazy salesman guy.
Yes.
And Eric, you did the whole Puss in Boots thing with Meta Knight before Antonio Banderas did it. So I just want to know if you have any fun stories working on that show.
I love the fact that I got to use that voice because I'm actually Sword Knight, Blade Knight, Meta Knight, and Gus on that show, which is kind of crazy. But when they wanted to have me do the voice for Meta Knight, when they were asking me to audition for it, they said, we want to do something Clint Eastwood like. And I said, well, that's kind of what I would do if I was doing Kaiba. I'm doing that. So how about if I just do, now this is before Puss in Boots, as you mentioned. I said, what if I do Antonio Banderas? And they said, well, why would he be Spanish? And I said, why not? And they went, good argument. And so I came up with that, and he has no lip flap. So the whole thing of doing it like this was fantastic. Right, because I had no boundaries. I just had where I started and where I ended. And he has been one of the favorites of a lot of fans will say, and this is a meaningful thing. I've had Spanish-speaking people come up to me and say, your character was the first character in cartoons that was not a stereotype making fun of us, that was so cool, he was my favorite character. And I didn't even think about that when I was picking that voice. But now Meta Knight he's up at the top of my list because of that moment. I just thought that was really an important thing, a learning lesson. Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, you guys did a great job on that show.
Thank
So I
you.
just wanted to bring
I'm glad you dig it. That was fun to work on.
Thank you.
Awesome.
What's your favorite arc in the original series?
My favorite is the whole series. Because the whole series is a story. And that doesn't always happen with series. So there's a beginning and a middle and an end. And the end of the original series, I think, sticks the landing, if you will, and leaves the audience with a meaningful moment, which is something that everyone will experience in their life, which is at some point, you're going to have to let go of somebody that you care about. And that will always be sad, but that won't always be tragic, right? So that's what I think.
Great question. Mine is the Egyptian story arc because it reveals the true dynamic between the two of them.
Right.
That I am not his enemy, but I'm actually his. I'm his dueling partner, right? I'm his sparring partner. I'm his lieutenant, and I just think that was interesting to reveal that, especially after playing it a certain way through high school, and then that being the true story. So that was my favorite. Good question, though. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Yep.
Hi, this is for Yugi.
Hey.
So
so before you ask your question, you at the end of the line.
Yeah, you're going to be the
person.
last one. Yep.
So make it
Got
good.
Yep. No pressure.
okay, so in the last episode of the Yu-Gi-Oh anime, when Yugi defeats Atem, how come Atem did not make the Millennium Puzzle disappear like at the end of Dark Side of the Dimension?
I wish I had like an in-universe answer for you, but I don't.
Okay.
My job consisted of trying to bring life to the lines the character had, but it's an excellent question. Yeah, but I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
You got it.
Good question. Come on down.
He stole my question.
Oh.
So you didn't participate at the last movie of Dark
No.
Side Dimension?
So what actors do is they get paid to say the lines, and they want you to do just that, the way they want. So I have no story control. I have no input on it.
Because I only heard when two of you got dueled each other, right?
No, so he's saying that we don't have, like, we're told what to do in terms of the performance, but in terms of what the other side
What
of
the
that
story
story
is, we
is,
don't
or
create the story.
Yeah, we have nothing to do with it. Yeah, that's what he was saying.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. All right,
All
thank
right.
you.
Good to
Thank
see
you for
again.
that. Yep.
See you again. Heffrey,
Come on
right?
down.
My only question is, are you guys coming back for another one?
Another movie. We
any-
would do it in a second.
Anytime.
Yes, we would do it in a second.
But we know nothing about a new movie.
No.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I saw that little light go off in your
Yeah.
head. You're like, oh,
What's it called?
Does that maybe mean that
We would love to do it. We love playing those characters.
Yeah.
we would love to do the manga?
All right, this is a question for both y'all. Have you guys read the manga, and what do you think about the manga compared to the anime?
I've read only the first volume of the manga, so there's a lot more for me to read. But I love it, and I think it would be so refreshing for people who grew up on the animation to see what that was inspired by, because there's a lot more to it.
Yeah, same thing. I've only really read the first installment of it, just to be familiar with it, since I was directing the show, get some sort of sense of that. Also, what Kaiba's real backstory is, and it's a lot darker. I mean, than the series is. Obviously, we could not.
And they don't only play card games.
Right. I mean, even Joey and Tristan they're pretty tough guys in the manga. I would love to be able to create something that was 100% true to the way that Takahashi had written it. Verbatim. It would be great to do that in a.
We put up 1 minute of video. I think it's on my socials.
Yeah.
But Eric's doing Kaiba. I'm doing Yugi. It's when Kaiba steals the blue eyes. Spoiler alert. But it's just a minute long. But I paced it out to feel exactly like you're reading the manga. We're going from right to left with the images, and it's just the images and our voices.
Yeah.
A little bit of music, but.
But yeah, it would be great to do that. I mean,
Yeah.
And I'm sure you guys would dig it too. But thank you for that question.
Thanks, guys.
Great to see you guys.
Thank you guys. That concludes our last panel of Collecticon.
Oh my God!
I know, of the year. You guys have been great.
Thank
You
you
know what we
guys
have
so
to do
much.
now? We have to take a photo with you guys. You
You're
think we
in
can
it.
do that? All right.